for the evening. Katie?
Thank you. Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Guzek, Programs Chair. Thank you, Renard. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for coming out on this cold night. Tonight, our featured presenter is Tim Holahan, who completed a 7-week backpack through hike of the 585-mile FLT Main Trail in 2023. Just out of curiosity, is there anyone here who has never heard of or hiked the FLT? That's good. Is there anyone here who has section hiked, just different sections of the Finger Lakes? A lot of people, great. Is there anybody who has completed an end-to-end hike? Oh, wow. Great, fantastic. Is Mary Ruth here? I didn't see her. So I just wanted to give a shout out to Mary Ruth because she was our most recent chapter member to finish a section hike of the end-to-end section hike of the FLT. But, okay, well, without further ado, here is Tim Holahan.
Hey, thanks everybody for coming out. I appreciate it. It's a cold, cold night here. What I want to talk to you about a little bit is experiencing New York at foot speed. Something I didn't have an appreciation for until I actually went out and did that. I'll start first though by introducing myself. I'm an ADK Club member. I will tell you my high peaks number is... Speak into the microphone. Oh, is that better? Yes. Oh, okay, got it, thank you. I think I've got to hold it very close. My high peaks number is 55. Now you look at that a little funny because there's only 46 high peaks. And I'm a 46er, but I didn't turn my paperwork in until 10 years after I finished. So my 46er number is 13,800 and something. But my high peak number of 55 is 55 people that I've guided to their first Adirondack summit. Brought them all back using leave no trace principles. We follow the 10 essentials. So I've got a passion for hiking and for guiding hikers and for sharing hiking stories that get people out onto the trail. For this evening, I thought about what we might do. What are my goals for this evening? I'm going to borrow the goals that I use for a hike and bring them to tonight's talk. I'm also an active scout leader. My scouts call me Mr. H. Mr. H's outing goals are these 4. Number 1, to get a wow. Sometime in this outing, in this presentation, I hope there's something here where you say wow. In fact, you can help me out. If you do say something that says wow, just say wow for me. Thank you. The second thing is a Goldilocks challenge. If we were hiking, you'd want to make this hike not too easy, not too hard, and just right. So I'm going to bring you a mix of some information about the trail. I'm going to bring you some stories about the trail, and I'm hoping you walk away with a couple of things where you'd say, ah, that's something I can use. So if I got the right mix of some information and some stories and something we can use, then I think I've met my Goldilocks challenge. The third one, please, nobody pull a hamstring, don't get hurt. Let's get through this outing without any injury or illness. And then the last is I hope you wrap up tonight wanting you want more. You may not want more of me, but I hope you want more of the Finger Lakes Trail and get a look at that. So with that, let's think about New York State. I just had occasion to drive on the New York State Thruway. If you drive our state on the Thruway, it is flat. It's so flat, you could probably float a boat from Albany to Buffalo. The state of New York is just that flat. Anybody that's driven across the state, say from Boston to the Midwest, not interesting. I know the cyclists like to ride the canal path, so all to it to them. But it's stunning. We know the Adirondacks are stunning with the mountains and lakes and the forests, but the rest of New York is just fascinating everywhere. You take a look at what's going on over here, bear with me a second. There's just so much going on. In fact, I would tell you that the Finger Lakes Trail is an Appalachian Trail. It's not the Appalachian Trail, that name's already been taken. But it really is an Appalachian trail. If you go by some definitions of what is Appalachian, look it up here in New York. It's really interesting going across the state here. And I'll pile on with just one more piece there. There is an effort in New York, it's in a lot of states across the country, a 30 by 30 effort. Could 30% of New York be protected in a conservation mode, either state land or protected by easements? Look across New York State. The more color you see on here, the more effort there is to protect New York. Look at the Adirondacks, right? Lots of color in there to protect the Adirondacks, lots to protect the Catskills. Look at what's happening across this part of the state over here. There are state forests and wildlife management areas all the way across there. In fact, this area across the state is so interesting that if you were to put a trail somewhere, I think that's where you might put it. And that brings us to the Finger Lakes Trail that's been here for 60 years, 580 miles of main trail, 6 branch trails, 29 loops and spurs, and I think there's some more coming there. Overall, it's 1,000 miles of trail. There's 1,200 members in the FLT, in the Trail Conference. Half of this is public land, half of it is private. So this is where we celebrate 600 or more private landowners are granting us permission to walk across their land. It's fabulous, and we're doing everything we can to pick up conservation easements. We occasionally will have land donated to us, or we'll have landowners that agree to put an easement on their land. The North Country Trail, if you go south out of here, you go down to Letchworth, and you pick up the Letchworth branch and take it to the FLT. If you turn left, you can go to Vermont. If you turn right, you can go to North Dakota. I would suggest you choose carefully. One of those is much further away than the other. And there's 20,000 hours, probably 25,000 hours a year of volunteer time that goes into the FLT. And think about what ADK Genesee Valley does. We've got 8 miles of trail that this chapter maintains, 780 hours of work last year, 3 group work projects. The trail maintainer pool, it says 155 signed up, but Bruce, I saw your clipboard in the lobby has maybe another 10 more. And if that clipboard is in the lobby when we wrap up, maybe we pick up a few more. It's a great experience to get out and work on trail. The Barn Trail had 2 Sawyer visits this year for big blowdowns. The blowdown turned into benches. The Shoe family is granted a permanent easement. And in 2025, the chapter will maintain 2 more miles of trails, 3 work dates tentatively scheduled to get out and do that. So there's an awful lot that ADK GVC has done. I'm going to bring you to this picture here. This is the Pam Shoe bench that's on the section trail. And if you could just all take a deep breath and give this chapter a big round of applause for your support and what you've done to support it. Thank you. Thank you. So now they talk about experiencing the state at foot speed. This is the trail in the fall of 2023, beginning in August and through to October. I had an opportunity to get out and experience the trail starting from the Pennsylvania border. When I drew a picture of what this hike looked like, I started by calling out where I took my breaks. At the state line, at Bush Hill, in Hornell, Sugar Hill, over near Watkins Glen, Oxy Gorge, and so on. And then I came to realize that breaking the trip down into what I experienced versus what the map said. So the first part was starting. This is where you start. Pretty easy. All my gear is clean. My hiking shirt doesn't smell too bad yet. Second part of it was blistering. Rain for 2 or 3 days. I don't get blisters. I do not get blisters when I hike. I do not get blisters when I run. I got blisters. I got blisters. It happens. I worked my way through it. And then got to a mode where I was kind of strolling along by the third piece. Describing what a through hike looks like, 18 times I stayed in a lean-to. There's lean-tos all the way across the state. 13 times I stayed in a tent. 3 times I stayed at an Airbnb or a hotel. And 12 nights I got off trail and was hosted by family or friends. I carried a base weight of 21 pounds, that's gear only. 2 pounds a day for food, and then anywhere from 1 to 3 liters of water based on whether I was early or late in the day. Broke the days down by whether it was a partial hiking day, a full day, a zero. Anybody know what a zero is for a thru hiker? Yeah, zeros are great, aren't they? A zero is where you start and end in the same place, and you haven't done any miles that day. And it breaks it up, it gives you a chance to refresh, a chance to recharge. We'll talk about that a little bit more. But I essentially had 34 full days of hiking, averaging 16 miles a day, never more than 22. 5 partial days, where for one reason or another I only hiked half the day. 2 Neros. A Nero is when you're closer to zero than a full day of hiking. I'm an analyst at heart, so I couldn't help but draw a picture and a graph of what I did. I see some smiles there. There's probably some fellow analysts here. The green bars you see on there were 10 nights. The orange bars are lean-to nights. The higher the bar, the further the miles. 2 years before I did this, one of my sons, half my age, went off and hiked the Appalachian Trail, and he had to pull up in his first week because he went too hard, too fast. And even though he was 20-something, he had to take 3 days off to let his knee swelling go down. So I took a little lesson from him, and as enthusiastic as I was to hit the trail, took it easy on the first couple of days. So I didn't have to work my way through that. You can see early on I was pretty gung-ho and anxious to use my tent because I was carrying it. And as I got deeper and deeper into the hike and you get to a lean-to, you can say I can either sleep on the lean-to floor or I can set up my tent. And the lean-to floor looked better and better as we went along. A couple things I learned from through hiking. I've been an Adirondack hiker for a long time, carrying a pack that was way heavier than it should be, and wearing big, bulky, heavy, strong leather boots. When you get down to thru hiker weight, not quite ultralight, but close, you can get away with trail runners. You don't need a boot. You really don't need a boot when the trail itself is pretty clear, and when your pack is only 25 pounds, you're not stumbling through Adirondack rocks and roots where you need a heavy boot on your feet. What I'd like to do is to share with you a couple of solo hiker tips, a couple things that I took away from being a solo thru hiker. There are lots of checklists and stuff that you can get, but I'll share from my experience. Headlamps are good. If one headlamp is good, 2 headlamps are better. Just an aside, the Adirondack Rangers will tell you that the #1 reason they're called out for a search in the high peaks is lack of headlamps. Exactly right. If the hiker had a headlamp, or had a second headlamp, or had a battery for their headlamp, they would have gotten themselves out. What I found hiking alone and camping alone, you got to hydrate all day long. If you got to hydrate all day long, the chances of getting up once or twice in the middle of the night to go find a privy and make a pit stop is pretty good. Every single night I had on the trail, I was alone in the campsite. I was never in a campsite with another camper. I saw lots of day hikers, but I never shared the campsite with anybody. So what I learned to do was, I've got 2 headlights. If I'm going to get up and I'm going to leave my tent, or I'm going to leave my lean-to and go find a privy off in the woods, I'm bringing my headlamp. And I just can't help but turn on my second headlamp, usually with a little red glow, and hang that second headlamp on my tent, or hang it on my lean-to. I just had this, what if my headlamp falls off? And I'm on my hands and knees and I'm in the woods, and I'm only 60, 80 feet from my tent, but it's pitch black, there's a full tree canopy over here. If I lose my one headlamp, I'm not finding my tent. And I'm by myself, what am I going to do? I'm just right there. Second thing I learned was to embrace the dark. I found early in my trip, I'd be hiking along and wonder if I'm going to get to my campsite by dark. Early on, I walked past a golf club, a little bit of road walk here. I walked by a golf club, and they had a whole patio bar out there. The music was playing. I could smell the burgers. You know they probably had a good beer on tap. But I wanted to get to my campsite before dark. So I stopped at the Pro Club there, and I filled up my water bottles, and I kept walking, and I got to my campsite before dark. I didn't make that mistake again. I didn't make that mistake again at all. I got to where the day is going to be what the day is. I've got a pack. I know where I'm going. I'm comfortable hiking in the dark. My campsite's going to be dark when I get there. The trail is very well maintained with white blazes that pop right out of my headlamp. I'm on my own schedule. I don't have to get to the campsite by dark. A couple other things I learned was every day I want to check in with my wife Annette, let her know where I'm at. We learned that, oops, if I wait to do that when I get to my campsite, here's the problem, is cell service is weak in valleys. Water flows in valleys. Campsites tend to follow where the streams are in valleys. The worst reception on the entire trail is in the campsites. So I learned that by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, if I know where I was going to be, let me do that cell phone check-in. I'm up on top of a ridge. You get up on top of a ridge, you can usually see a cell tower. You get down into a campsite, beautiful campsite tucked in by a stream, you're just not going to have cell service. So I learned to check in there. And the other thing I learned here is to be politely vague. I had a couple conversations with folks in the lobby today about solo hiking or solo through hiking. And you learn to be politely vague while you're on the trail. Folks are, and by the way, there's no road rage when you're walking. You know, all these people that might otherwise yell at you if we encountered each other behind the windshield of a car. But you'll see people walking along and they'll want to chat with you because you've got a backpack on. Invariably they'll ask, how far are you going? How far have you hiked? Where are you staying tonight? I mean, I'm a grown adult, I'm on my own, I can take care of myself in the dark. But having a polite conversation, there's really no need for me to be more specific. I'm going to go as far as the trail takes me tonight. I don't have to answer that question. Sometimes you'll realize in a conversation with somebody that they realize you're being a bit vague, and they nod and they appreciate it. And to be honest, anybody that is taken aback by me being vague, I'm happy to end that conversation and move on. I never felt at all like I was threatened or endangered at all when I was on the trail, but I found that learning to be politely vague about where I was going and who I was with made for fine conversations. It also meant that every single night that I was in the woods by myself, my wife knew where I was. Nobody else really needed to know where I was. So very comfortable in the woods, very comfortable with the folks that I would see along the way. I would, let me shift and share with you a couple of tips that I came to through hiking kind of late in my hiking career here. There's a couple of tips I've taken from my through hiking experience and used in other ways. One is to just get up and go. To just get up and go every day. You might as well. You're going to hike today anyway. So whether it's raining or shining, just put your shoes on, put your pack on, and go and take today's hike. The neat thing about through hiking is you really don't have a choice to get up and go, because you're either going to get up and go forward, stay where you are, or go backwards. I like to say while I'm moving along that I'll take my breaks moving forward. But it sometimes means I find a low gear and a lower gear and a slower gear. But as long as you're moving forward on the day, you're making progress. To sit and wait for an hour or two until you rest up, probably not going to be that rested, so just keep going every day. The fact that you've got your entire pack on your back, you can camp, stay wherever you want, enjoy where you are. This spot where I'm at right now today, it's a nice pond, there's a bald eagle flying around. I can stay here for 45 minutes or for an hour. If I don't make it to my destination tonight, then my campsite's going to be wherever I drop my pack. So I can stop and enjoy where I am. And the other tip that I've taken is get your food grocery store simple. You know, I remember the days of planning campouts, backpacking trips, and canoe trips. And how involved and how fulfilling and how satisfying can I make my food? Which turns into how much of your day is going to be spent cooking and preparing. So what I found from through hiking is you can get everyday grocery store simple meals. I've taken and adapted this with my scout troop is, guys, you know, if we go to simple food, then you can fish more. And if you get to simple food, then you can play in the fire more. If you go to simple food, we can swim more, whatever it would be. I've listed a menu here, and I'll just cite it as an example. Everything here you can get from a grocery store, a Walmart, or a dollar store. You can get 400 calories in the morning with 2 oatmeal packages and a granola bar and a tea bag or instant coffee. You can have 400 calories at lunch with 2 flour tortillas, some squeezed peanut butter, and craisins. Peanut butter, by the way, is the most dense calorie per ounce. There's nothing that we eat that delivers more fuel than peanut butter because it's full of fat, it's full of carbs, and it's full of proteins. The least dense is jelly. So raisins or craisins, don't do jelly, do dry craisins, and then boom, there's 400 calories for lunch. Get 1,200 calories for dinner if you have a Knorr rice side and instant mashed potatoes. And by the way, putting in a couple flour tortillas. Putting all that together takes 4 cups of water. And just think of that, you're gonna have dinner and you're gonna go through a whole liter of water. It's gonna be in your dinner, so you've just hydrated there. It takes a lot to get that much down. And then your snacks on the day, probably the stuff that you all have in your packs, right? Protein bars, maybe beef jerky, some candy, some Cajun mix. But right there's 3,000 calories. It's simple, grocery store simple, nothing that takes more than a couple minutes to boil water and cook. And so I pick up and borrow that from through hiking and say, now when I'm going out in the woods for anything, let me go with that menu. Simple, easy to get out and go. Your resupply is get a whole lot simpler because it's the same thing every day. But at a certain point, the adventure is where you're going and how you're getting there, not so much what are the foods that you're bringing. So on the notion of resupply, I'm going to credit my wife Annette, who's over here with 2 of my sons. She made this through hike possible. I drew a very simple route. Went to the Alleghenies and just followed the white blazes until I got to the Catskills. Annette, on the other hand, started from her home in Marion and drove me down here. And then every one of these red lines is her coming out with a resupply. We bought 7 weeks of food and put it in bins and put it in the van. And she popped out and met me on the trail, time and time again, for the resupply. My 0 days were off with families and running around, but she came back and once a week put the van together and came out and did a resupply. So thank you, Annette, for making that trip possible. One of the lessons that came from that I'll share with this group is how to support a through hiker. I had the opportunity, before I did my hike, our oldest son hiked the Appalachian Trail. You see that off to the right. And every one of those little yellow splashes up there is an opportunity where family came out and visited him. And then last fall, after I picked the Finger Lakes Trail to go hike, Annette and I agreed to go do a hike together. She got to pick the next trail. So in 2024, she picked the long trail for us. And these are cases where family came out and met us while we were on the long trail. So a couple things here. Suppose you want to go support a through hiker. Does anybody here have family or friends that are going to do a through hike in 2025? Know anybody heading out to the AT, the long trail, trail? These are things you can do to go support somebody that's doing a through hike. You can show up and do what's called trail magic. Any place where the trail crosses the road, if you're there with fresh food, an empty trash bag to trade for the full trash bag, and maybe a battery charge, you're going to make that hiker very happy. There are people that pick and choose along the trail. This works where you've got a lot of trail traffic going through. You can offer to help that through hiker. You can lend them a hand by a resupply. You can also do what's called slack packing, somebody that's doing a long through hike. You could take half of the weight of their pack and meet them up ahead. So you could give them essentially, they could carry half a pack for a day you could put it in your car, drive ahead and meet them at the end of the day. You can help a thru-hiker with their 0-day priorities. If you're a thru-hiker, how you want to prioritize your time on your 0 days. Number one, you want to shower, you want laundry, you want to resupply, and you want to rest. So to lend support to a hiker, boy, help them on their 0 days with those things. And then find a way to find them. That thru-hiker on the trail isn't going to be able to get to the place where you are, but you can get to the place where they are. And lend a hand to them. So now we talk a little bit about sort of experiencing New York at foot speed. What I found early on was, boy, everybody wants to support you, everybody wants to wave. The first part of my hike there, I was able to meet a trail crew 4 days in. It was on my 4th day of the trail. Was able to work with the trail crew that day. And one of the folks on the crew said, oh, you're through hiking here. Could I help you out to go get a shower and laundry? I'm thinking by day 4, it was probably obvious that I needed a shower, but I tried to stay on the right side of the wind. She offered to ride me to go get a shower and laundry. She offered to drive me an hour and a half to Buffalo and back. Just to be kind, because I was a hiker. I kind of had to do that. I appreciated it, but declined. I'll tell you that my blistering stage was solved by an overnight at Swain. Swain Mountain is a ski place. They rent rooms. The trail goes right by there. You can rent a room. So I was able to rent a room there and kind of get restocked and re-energized. And then I found the strolling phase was going right through the Hornell, Bath, Havensport range there. The hills there were just stunning. Just one rolling hill after another rolling hill. It's no surprise that that's where a lot of the windmill farms went, right? Because they're gorgeous hilltops to be up on top of. In the middle here, I ran into what I'll call a good sort of tired. I hit this fatiguing stage probably 3 weeks in that was different than a fatigue that I encountered. I've struggled to finish some ultramarathons, and I know that's sort of single day tired, but this was a good sort of tired. It was 3 weeks in here, and you're moving along every day, you're getting plenty of sleep, you're getting plenty of food. There's this special, kind of a good tired that you get sort of halfway through. I did run into some trouble over here. I took a muscle tear heading towards Bainbridge in a cow pasture. This is the smoothest part of the FLT. A nice, easy, grassy cow pasture. Somehow I managed to slip. Feet went forward, my weight went backwards, and I tore a shin muscle. Didn't really realize at the time that it was torn, but I must have just ripped and torn it just enough. So that put a little bit of a twist in there. That was just as I was dropping down into Bainbridge. By the way, there's a really neat bar on the left of the trail there. If you need a burger and a beer and a battery charge, that's the place to go. The bartender there used to do trail work on the trail. And I found hiking through Bainbridge, everybody's waving. The trail goes right through town, and probably every third car driving by was somebody waving. So even on a day where I've taken an injury here and I'm struggling a little bit, I'm having a good day, and there's people out there that are smiling at me. Fortunately, I came off the trail. I got to slack pack there a bit. My oldest son came out to meet me, and I had to do 5 miles into Masonville over here. So he took my pack. I was able to do the last 5 miles after an injury. I had a scheduled day off anyway, and was able to kind of work my way through. That did mean that as I got to back on the trail, I was kind of grimacing. And this was really odd. What do you prefer? Do you prefer to hike up a hill or down a hill? Who prefers to hike up? Whoa, okay, yikes. Who prefers to hike down? Wow, okay, I read this room wrong. I thought I was telling you news that hiking up was better than hiking down, but I got that wrong. I found out with this injury, the ups were fine. That as long as my toes were higher than my heels, that muscle tear. So I began to get to this mode where, let me just go up as fast as I can. because I'm going to be grimacing on the way down. So it totally flipped the experience for me. I started rooting for the climbs, and up until that point, I've been rooting for the downhills. I would tell you that as I got through the town of Downsville, as I approached Downsville, another town full of waves, one guy had just retired. He was moving into his place. He came out from his porch to talk to me, excited to see somebody hiking by his house. He was retiring and moving up from the New York City area, so was happy to be in a more rural area. Loved the fact that this trail goes right by his house. An hour later, I had to do a bit of a road walk around the log enclosure, and there was a gentleman on his porch, and he waved me over and had a chat, and he was delighted that somebody was walking by his house. And then when I pulled into Downsville, a guy pulled his car over and wanted to make sure that I knew where there was a dedicated bench in town for a local pastor who had done a bunch of work on the trail 30 years before. So you get into this town, and I'm just a guy with a backpack, and suddenly folks just want to pull over and chat with you. It's a very different experience. You know, if I was driving through town, who knows, somebody might cut you off in traffic, but when you're walking through, folks went out of their way, they pulled over, and they wanted to ask, how are you doing? Do you need anything? And they wanted to tell you something. I will tell you right after that, coming out of Downsville the next day, I ran into what I call a hydration crisis. I'm going to blame it on the Buffalo Bills. Because when I got into Downsville, my plan was to go to the old schoolhouse. The old schoolhouse is not a museum. Get this. It's a bar where you can get a burger and a beer and a battery charge. So I timed it, so I pulled in that Sunday to the old schoolhouse. And my plan was to see half the game and then hit the trail and keep going. Bills blew out the Dolphins. It was a good day for a Bills fan. So I had to get a second beer and stay and watch the second half. And then I got 7 more miles of trail to do. So I hit the trail in the late afternoon and the evening, and I headed back up and out. The FLT is really, really well marked. That section is getting better and better marked as the FLT maintainers are adding FLT blazes to what had been a state snowmobile trail. It turns out the best time to navigate a state snowmobile trail is in the winter when it's got snowmobile traffic. So I had a little navigation challenge up and over the hill in that stretch. Then I made an error. I turned wrong at a trail junction. Got to my lean-to late and went to sleep. This lean-to, top of it is just darkest lean-to you'd ever imagined. The lowest headspace. I don't set an alarm in the morning. I overslept. Got up late. I was tired. I got in late because of the Buffalo Bills. Had a quick breakfast. Didn't hydrate enough. Half mile out of camp is a road crossing in a stream. I filled one of my water bottles up a little more, then I hit the trail. And there's the mistake. The mistake wasn't guzzling a liter, the mistake wasn't carrying 3 liters. It wasn't until about 4 hours later that I realized I'm on a long ridge line. I've been on a long ridge line. It's fall. The leaves are off the canopy, the sun's coming in. It's that beautiful, dry fall hiking weather. And I'm just bone dry. One more campsite that I've got to get past. My FLT map warns me that there's no water at this campsite. When the FLT map tells you there's reliable water, there's reliable water. Sometimes I had to bail it with a bucket, but when the map says reliable water, there's reliable water. Guess what? When the map says there's no water, there's no water. So I had to pull up and stop. I had 7 more miles to do at night. I thought I could do it in the dark over the mountains, but I was down to half a liter of water, and I pulled up and stopped. Figured I'd better off just going to sleep and get through that day. I caught a break. A bow hunter was on his way out and walked by with a liter of water. A liter of seltzer water, actually, with bubbles in it. But I took it, and he gave me 4 apples, and I was able to work my way through. That was probably my biggest crisis along this hike, was just having to cut short my day because I hadn't planned for water. And that was probably the single driest place on the trail. The twist here is I was supposed to meet Annette, who was backpacking up to meet me from the other way. and had to push off a day and say, nope, I'm not going to be at that. You've got to come closer to me because I'm not going to be there for another day. But we worked our way through it. We got through, finished up on Slide Mountain. Slide Mountain's 4,000 feet. To be honest, I've been a bit of an Adirondack bigot my whole life. When I want mountains, I go to the mountains. There's Catskills. It's like nobody told me there were Catskills. It was gorgeous. It was gorgeous. We had great fall foliage, was prime right there. I've driven around the Catskills for decades, just never went there. The eastern terminus of the FLT is Slide Mountain, 4,000 feet, great view, great elevation, and a fine time to work through. So it was really that experience coming across Footspeed. I'll share with you a couple of pictures here. You see these stone walls in this picture right here? They are all over the trail. They're all over, everywhere you go. Every one of these is a family homestead. Some family lived there. There was a farm there, probably a couple generations. If you start in the west and you go all the way over to the east, you know, a lot of this land is in public hands now. Sort of Depression era public land acquisitions, right? The Highland farms were struggling, it was dry. So there are family homesteads that we're hiking through all the way across the state. You'll see foundations, you'll see stone walls, you'll tell the mature trees that are right along the stone wall. So everywhere you go, you realize we're walking through. Walking through as the forests are taking back over from what was homesteads. Boy, there's a bench over near Ellicottville. It's on private land. It's a really steep climb. I swear somebody puts fresh water there every couple of days. There's a bell over here. When you go by this house, there's a red, white, and blue bell and a sign that asks thru-hikers, anybody hiking, ring the bell. They want to come out and wave to the hiker that's going by. It's the coolest thing. And then there's just pasture after pasture of hillside across. A couple of special places. I'm not going to talk about these four because everybody knows them. If not, take a picture, study them. Letchworth, gorgeous. Little Rock City over near Ellicottville, just really neat rock formations to go through. Slide Mountain we talked about, the Catskills, and Labrador, Tinker's Falls in the east. Just outside of Syracuse, just gorgeous little waterfall and a neat view up top. Those are the well-known special places. What I thought I would do for you today is call out a couple that are less well-known, and you may want to check them out. The first one is what I'm going to call the top of the world. 360-degree view. I'm going to stand in this spot. I'm going to do a full 360 turnaround, and I'm not going to see any houses. I did see a tractor, saw a little puff of smoke from somebody down in the valley, but just a gorgeous valley. Just a gorgeous valley in every direction where you can look around and see that. Now, in order to get there, you've got to go past down in the valley before it, a vegetable stand, a fruit and vegetable stand. It has one of those messages that says, I'm glad I'm here. They tell you what the price is, and they say we appreciate exact change, but come as close as you can. You just realize that when you're walking past this, you say, this is a good place to be. In order to get up into this view, you've got to climb over a fence stile. Anybody here climbed over a fence stile know what that is? You've got to get up and over barbed wire or up and over rocks. So you got to get up and over that fence so the cows stay in. There were no cows in the pasture when I was there, but I had to climb the stile to get in, and I had to climb the stile to get out. And then I don't know the story, but the mailbox right in the valley below, there's a nice plaque there that was 50 years old. It's on my list to go figure out, boy, I wonder what the story is. And I think I could probably find it, but somebody dedicated that plaque to somebody there 50 years ago. This view to the top of the world is really cool. Let me show you where it is. And we did say there were going to be maps. There are going to be a lot of maps here tonight. It's north of Hornell. In fact, it's on what FLT calls map number 9, which is right next to map number 10. And the trail that GVC maintains is a stretch around Hornell between maps 9 and maps 10. So the FLT map that supports the section of the trail we maintain has in it the top of the world. It's pretty close to where we go to maintain that section of trail. Also near there, by the way, you can pick up from the DEC. The Klipnaki State Forest is up there. There's all kinds of campsites and primitive campsites that are up in that area adjacent to the trail. So I'd encourage you to visit the top of the world. Another place to go check out is the Bristol branch. Bristol branch runs from just north of Hammondsport up to Naples. So that's pretty close to where we are here in Rochester. There's two things I'll call out for that. The Huckleberry Bog is a 7.5-mile loop trail that you can make. It goes by one of the coolest lean-tos on the trail, the Evangeline lean-to. Wow, yes, isn't that a wow? It is one of the coolest lean-tos, thank you for that wow. And then there is an interpretive guide with a mailbox on either side of the Huckleberry Bog. If you approach it from the north, you can take out this interpretive guide and you can carry it with you. And you can put it in the mailbox on the south side. If you're going to do a loop, and there's an extra trail here that makes a loop that you can come around, if you're going to do a loop, you can bring the guide back. That guide has got 50 or 60 stories on it. This little snippet here, I don't expect you to be able to read that, but what it is, it's the history of that family farmstead. And it's talking about the home and the farm and the barn and the old grove, apple groves that are there. And you can walk your way through point after point on this. It'll take all day because it'll be the slowest hiking you've probably ever done because you're going to turn the page and you go see, hey, what's next? The other suggestion I would make, if you're going down in that area, pop up to Gannett Hill Park. It's Ontario County Park. It's north of Naples. You can drive right up into it. You don't need a reservation. There's a place there called Jump Off. You don't really jump, but it's a gorgeous view into a valley. It's about 2/10 of a mile from the parking lot. It's a great place to take somebody that's not a hardcore hiker that wants to come and get outdoors and see things. It's also a great quick stop to do if you've had a long hike. And it's also a great place to get what I call a reverse sunset. There's a picture of that there. You're going to look to the east. The sun's going to set behind you. The ridge and the trees are a little higher, but in the summertime, you're going to see a sunset east of Canandaigua Lake, up and over the hills to the east. You know, I don't know about you, but whenever I'm watching a sunset, I'm turning around and looking west. Here's a spot where you turn around and look to the east. It's also a great place if you bring a camp stove. There's a picnic table. It's a great place to just cook up and have a little dinner. So whether you want to cook yourself a dinner on the way home, or just visit a spot with Finger Lakes, if you do this in the fall, you can get a great pie down in the village of Naples, and then have a really, really good day. So I would encourage you to go seek out the Bristol branch. Another spot to go see would be the Sugar Hill Fire Tower. Anybody been to the Sugar Hill Fire Tower? It's pretty close by. It's 10 miles from Watkins Glen. So if you wanted to do sort of a car drop hike, you could start here or end here, drop a car here, drop a car in Watkins, and you could hike into the upstream side of Watkins Glen. There is a state campsite there. It's a first come, first serve. There's a restroom with hot water, flush toilets, no showers. And there's plenty of lean-tos nearby. But it's a really neat opportunity, particularly in the fall, to get out and enjoy the foliage where you can pop up a fire tower. This particular fire tower is a drive-up, so you probably see other people camping there. And it's pretty popular, I think, with the horse community because they've got stalls and so forth for horse trailers. Now let's go just south of Cortland, something called the International. There is a really exciting thing going on there. The landowner there, the Gonzalez family, has been working with the FLTC and working with the state to create a series of loop trails. And there are loops and loops. They all have an international name to them, the Spanish loop, the Ukrainian loop. There's a collection of maps. There's 4 detailed maps in particular The regular FLT map will tell you how to get through here, but you can get some more detailed maps. It's just a great day to go and park your car in one spot, and you can get out and get out of the loop. It's very, very close to Greek Peak into Virgil Mountains, so you can get the view you get of being up on top of the ski slope and do some reasonable loop hikes there. And I don't know about you, but if I can do a loop instead of an out and back, I'm going to go for the loop. One more special place here is a secret campsite. So I'm going to ask you to swear everybody here for secrecy. Shh, shh, shh. This is an off-the-books campsite. If we go way over the east, we're getting close into the Catskills, we're going to find that we're in reservoirs and rivers that's part of the New York City water supply. The New York City Department of Environmental Protection owns all the land around these reservoirs. You can hike through, but you can't camp. So what are you going to do? It's a long way from end to end. And you got some big climbs. There is a solution. The trail in a tiny little spot, I'm going to have to look a little carefully. I'm going to put my pointer on it right here. I'm going to put my pointer on it right here. There is a tiny little spot where the trail comes off of public land, cuts into private land, and then turns and cuts back in. On my trip, I happened to get there, again, in the dark. Was able to find the campsite. There is no disc that says camp here. There is no big fire pit that says burn things here. There is no brick. There is no water. There's no source of water. But there's a spot that if you're applying leave no trace principles, you can come in there on your hike, drop and put your campsite, get up in the morning, and continue on your way. And it works. It works. You think about it. You know, why does it work? It works because, you know, think about how many of us are committed to sustaining no trace principles. And there's a landowner there that's gracious enough to allow us to pop the trail up and onto that piece of private land. It works. That landowner wouldn't even know we're there. I matted down some grass with my tree or my tent, and he wouldn't even know I was there the next day. And it works with the city water supply because while we're actively hiking here, we are not camping on the land, and we've got a path there. So my good secret safe with everybody here. We're all going to go there. I would throw your pack on and go up and check it out, just to check it out. So the notion of go check some things out. What I'd like to do now is share with you 10 ways to enjoy the FLT. We'll see if at least one of these resonates with everybody. First one is why not just hike it end to end? To be honest, it's the easiest way to go. You just start in the west and follow the way until you get to the east. So number 10, for David Letterman fans here, is just hike it as an end. Number 9, the cross-county hike series. The FLTC picks a county every year. This year it's in Allegheny County. There's 5 or 6 weekends already scheduled for 2025. You join a group, you park your car, you get on a the bus takes you away, and you hike back to your car. Hike in groups, then ask by how fast you want to go. The trail runners go first. I think they call themselves the Nature Appreciation Group, comes last. But you can hike all of Allegheny County with a group over a series of weekends. If you do that, I think 7 years in a row, you could end-to-end hike the entire FLT. So the cross-county series just moves across the state, and then it starts over and repeats. So that's a great way to get out and enjoy the trail. Number 8, you could do this independently. These are all pre-planned hikes that tell you where to park and where to start. Meeting the day on the calendar when the group is going to go and get on the bus. You can sign up, get the maps, and you can hike all of Allegheny County whenever you like. In fact, the folks that do that often come back and
sort of source, hey, I missed a hike, anybody want to go with me? Kind of form up some hiking groups. Number 7 is FLTC Fall Weekend. We'll be at Swain Ski Resort. So that's a weekend of planned hikes. That'll be in September. So that involves a chunk of hiking on the FLT. Number 6, we have a 101 program, a hiking 101. Really good fit for beginners. It's a really good fit for an experienced hiker to bring a beginner along. And it's a super fit for an experienced hiker that says, yeah, I'd like to sign up to be a hiking 101 guide. But that's a program where planned hikes all the way across the corridor throughout the year. Number 4 is the Wegmans Passport Series. There's 60 hikes, some in the east, some in the central, some in the west. All easy day hikes. Number 4 is a challenge. There's a guide out of Buffalo called Outside Chronicles. This guide has donated $400,000 in the last 6 years to nonprofits. The FLTC is one of the biggest beneficiaries. The Finger Lakes Land Trust is up there. The Western New York Land Conservancy is up there. You sign up, you get points for hiking a certain number of hikes, and you get a badge. And so far, he's donated $400,000 to conservation-minded groups in the area. So if you want a challenge, you can sign up with this challenge. Number 3 here, the FLT has a 50-mile and 100-mile challenge, and the North Country Channel has a 100-mile challenge. So we got a patch program. If you want to do 50 miles of hiking, you pick any 50 on the trail, and now you become an FLT 50 fitter. Number 2, come back around again, is to volunteer for trail work. And we know there's 155 people in this chapter that volunteer for trail work. It turns out that doing trail work involves hiking on trails to get to the trail work. So that counts as a hike. So one way to hike and enjoy the trail is to go do a chunk of trail work. And number one way is to just simply hike your own hike. You can pick up the maps on the FLT website. You can buy a map for $3. If you're a member, it's $2.40 for a map. You can pick up a map and say, I think I'd like to go from that place to that place. So with that, I would tell you there's 10 ways that you can get out and enjoy the trail. I'll get these slides to you somehow, but I'll include a little shortcut link to go get to each one of those 10, if any of them appeal to you. And with that, I think I'll take you to Bear Spring Mountain over near Walton. This is morning sunlight. There's nothing like sideways sun coming through the trail. So thanks for your interest in the trail. I'm looking at the clock here. Do we have time maybe for a question or two before we depart?
If you didn't have someone resupply along the way,
Yep.
how easy is it to resupply? I mean, do you have to take significant detours off the trail? How many days between resupply points? If you're totally on your own.
Yeah, if you're totally on your own, I think most folks can make 5 to 6 days without food. If you're ambitious, you could do 7. Your food is about 2 pounds a day. So there's a way to find, and we marked them on the trail maps, there's a way to find a grocery store along the way. There are a couple of spots where I think you would be challenged to go make that work. I would tell you that the FLT Hiking Google group is a huge resource. When I needed to get a ride from one point of the trail to another, I posted that group. I had one guy say, I can't give you a ride, but you can borrow my mother's car. I had another guy come and say he picked me up and drove me, and he wouldn't take gas money. So if I were looking and planning my hike and I found that there was a spot on my hike where I don't think I could get to a grocery store, I would post to that group, and I would bet that somebody would jump back and say, give me a list and I'll shop for you, or tell me where to meet you and I'll run you to the store and back. And your chances of that are really, really good. So.
And just 1 second question. Are there advantages to going from west to east versus east to west?
Well, it turns out the notes on the map are all written as if you're moving west to east. So there's a couple of points where they tell you how to get to a farmyard or how to work through. So most of the descriptions read better west to east. I will tell you that the guy that's got the fastest known time, he went from east to west. And I contend it's because it was downhill. It was from 4,000 feet on Slide Mountain to about 500 feet on the Allegheny River. So technically speaking, it's downhill if you go that way. Question?
Should you bring up your container for this trail?
Oh, great question. For this trail, I brought a Kevlar bear bag called an Ursack that weighs about a pound. It's a soft bag. I use hard canisters in the high peaks that weigh too much, but I brought the Ursack. I scared a bear during the day near Ellicottville, but I saw bear tracks near Letchworth, but I saw no evidence of bears in campsites. So that Ursack that I brought is also mouse-proof and squirrel-proof. So really, the food protection was more about keeping the micro bears away, not the big bears. Yes?
Tim, quick question on the direction to hike.
Yep.
You know, our maps have a description on the back of mile by mile for that map. Each
Yes.
map is about 20 miles. So we've got 33 for the whole, 34 for the whole Allegheny Catskills.
Yes, indeed, yep.
But the instructions on the back of the map are going from west to east.
Yeah, they do, yeah.
Rather than turning left, you've got to turn right if you're going the other way.
Yeah, those, by the way, those notes on the back of the map, I've got some examples there in the lobby. It's a 20-mile map, and it's probably going to give you 40 pointers on the back of it. Right, so you're getting every half mile or so, there'd be a tip or a pointer that tells you where to go. And you're right, they read as if you're moving from the west to the east. So, but I'd be comfortable going from the east to the west. A lot of the North Country thru-hikers start in Vermont and go to Dakota, and they're moving across the FLT from the east to the west. So, yes.
What portion of the hike is road?
Boy, I think I'm thinking it's less than 10%. Every once in a while you run into a 2 or a 3 mile road walk that can be a little bit of a disappointment. I tell you, I'd love it if the entire trail were in the woods. If I'm being totally honest, when you're really tired some days, walking down that road is easier than walking through the woods. So if you're through hiking, you got to take the miles as they come. If you're going out for a day hike and you're working your way through, a lot of folks will pick an area of trail to do a day hike, and they'll skip over where there's a roadblock. Yep.
Want to talk about our car spotter?
Yeah, there's a car spotter program as well, that if you want to get out and hike, it's great to go from point to point. So we've got folks that have volunteered. The list is kind of held by our end-to-end coordinator so that nobody's phone number or email gets spammed. So you got to go through one little step to go get it. But we got folks that would be more than happy to come out and meet you. Typically, when you want to do a car spot for an end-to-end, you'll drop your car someplace. The car spotter will be you in your car, and then they'll drive you away to wherever you'd like. And then you bike back to your car. So there's a whole team of folks that are volunteering to go do that. And if you want to cover portions of the trail, they'll help you get a point-to-point hike with just one driver. So. Question?
Yeah. So when you knew your campsite wouldn't have access to water, how would you plan for that?
Oh, great question. So I told you the story where I planned poorly for that. What I would do is I carry 3 1-liter bottles. The commercial smart water bottle is tall and thin. It fits in your pack easy. A Sawyer squeeze filter screws onto it. So my capacity of water was 3 liters. Some of the campsites were high up on a hill, and I knew if I loaded with 3 liters of water, which is 6.6 pounds if you're counting, I would just make sure that by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, sometime in that day, that I would have 3 full liters to get me up to my campsite. I might drink part of 1 liter getting there. I'm going to go through an entire liter for dinner. I'm going to go through half a liter for breakfast, and I'd probably have a half a liter left over. So I'd be prepared to have 3 liters of water. By the way, I don't like using those big bags because I'd rather have 3 small bottles in case I spill one or drop one. But 3 liters can pretty much get you through the night.
Are the maps marked how steep that side of the trail is?
Yeah, they are. The maps are all regular contour maps. So the closer those contour squiggles get to one another, that's going to tell you that's going to be steep. When you look at a section of map and that orange ink for the contour lines, looks like it's all one big brush stroke, you know you're going up really steep or you're going down really steep. Some days I'd be a little smarter planning that than others, but it'll give you a sense of how much up and down you have to do. So, all right, time for one more question there.
I just need to make a public service announcement. Security came in and asked everybody if you need to use the restroom to read, please use the ones on this floor. Not go downstairs into the school and use the restrooms because it sets off an alarm and the police come. So please, if you need to use the restroom, just use the ones that are on the floor. Thanks.
I know we can get raided in one of these meetings, Jim.
So the maps also have a contour on the bottom, right? Don't they have a contour profile of that section of the trail?
Yeah, I think our online map, if you look at it online, it'll pop up a window and show you that contour. I think the printed map gives you the contour intervals, but it doesn't give you that picture. So with that, folks, let me ask you, did anybody find a wow tonight? Really say wow? How did we do on the Goldilocks? Too much, too little, just right? Anybody get just right? And you mentioned security, so I'm going to ask about health and safety. Did anybody get injured here? Then everybody good? And how about wanting a little more? If we left you with wanting maybe a little bit more to check out this trail, then I think I've met my 4 outing goals. If this was a hike, I'd feel pretty good about it. So what's that? Do you all get a badge? You get a badge of honor. You get a badge of honor tonight. All right, so thanks, folks.